Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. Currently, we are in Proverbs chapter 18, and this is the godly wisdom. The difference between godly wisdom and worldly, high intellectual wisdom is that the wisdom is profound by God, but you can walk away with it and I could do something with it. The intellectual wisdom, other than just sitting around giving or talking about or debating thought, reason, intellect, it probably stops there. So, what Proverbs and the godly wisdom is, hey, we could take this and walk away and put it into effect. And if you think about this wisdom on all levels. So no matter how ignorant or lowly you are, or no matter how wise or high and lofty you are, this wisdom affects everyone. So let's get into it. Proverbs chapter 18. Now, verse 1 says, one who isolates himself pursues selfish desires. He rebels against all sound judgment. A fool does not delight in understanding, but only wants to show off his opinions. Now that's kind of true. I think we all kind of fall into that category, excuse me, where we want to brag about our opinions. Um, verse 3. The difference, of course, notice he said the fool delights in does not delight in understanding, but only shows off his opinions. It's bad when your opinions are foolish. Verse 3. When the wicked man comes, contempt also does, and along with dishonor, disgrace. That's for the wicked man. Verse 4. The words of a man's mouth are deep waters, a flowing river, a fountain of wisdom. It is not good to show partiality to the guilty, but perverting the justice due the innocent. Now, we can certainly just look at the news reels today and apply this. Not good to show partiality to the guilty. Of course, this has always been done. We just have it more plastered in the news. Showing partiality to the guilty. Verse 6. A fool's lips leads to strife, and his mouth provokes a beating. You ever see a person like that? Just keeps talking until he gets beat down? Verse 7. A fool's mouth is his devastation, and his lips are a trap for his life. A gossip's words are like choice food that goes down into the innermost being. The one who is truly lazy in his work is brother to a vandal. The name of Yahweh is a strong tower. The righteous run to it and are protected. Now, just a quick note, the name, when it talks about the name Yahweh, there's a lot of debate and discussion over what is God's true name or how do you pronounce it. The term Yahweh, um, the Hebrew language, when it pronounces this name, does not put the vowels in it. So the what's called the four unspeakable letters, okay, which is YHWH, something like that. Four unspeakable letters called the tetragram. Then they put, I believe, the A and the E in it, so it wasn't necessarily. That's how I come up with Yahweh. Now, another people pronounce it as Jehovah, and then in your King James, that's why you will see Lord with a capital L. They just say Lord with a capital L, and then any other designation of Lord is lowercase. Lord of the manor, okay, but the Lord is always capital L. Or I think it's all caps in some respects too. if you're going to use Lord as the name of God. Okay, I have to kind of look it up. But anyway, so verse 11: a rich man's wealth is his fortified city, in his imagination it is like a high wall. Before his downfall, a man's heart is proud, but humility comes before honor. What a universal truth this is. Think about every time you fail. Think about it every time someone fails, and almost without fail, you see this: the pride before one's fall, and usually it is the pride that blinds him and he doesn't see the fall coming. Uh, Verse 13: the one who gives an answer before he listens, this is foolishness and a disgrace for him. So many times I could say I'm guilty of that. So many times. Think about it. We give an answer before we listen or before we hear it. If you want to look at something like that, it's like sending an email before proofreading it. This is even actually worse though. Verse 14: a man's spirit can endure sickness, but who can survive a broken spirit? Now I mentioned this verse without knowing exact location, but notice he said a man's spirit. Now when he says man's spirit, when you talk about what man is, the human being or mankind is three parts. He's the spirit, soul, and the body. So the real you is the spirit. In other words, when you die, and we always speak of this, sometimes we speak it up in terms of being a ghost or spirit, but you go someplace else. You continue. Consciousness continue. So you continue. So that spirit is inside. You have a spirit, you have a soul, and a body. And it's kind of interesting because he says a spirit can endure sickness. We can also say a spirit can endure all kinds of adversity, tragedies. Um, you hear about these unbelievable stories where people endure unspeakable things, getting shot 9 times, falling off a cliff, and then surviving the fall, um, cancer, whatever diseases. So that's why he said the man's spirit can endure sickness, but who can survive a broken spirit? And that's when you see a person, when they get to a place where they're just broken in life. I think about, when you think about people who just give up in life, suicide can be one of those outlets. Verse 15: the mind of the discerning acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seek it. A gift opens doors for a man and brings him before the great. I believe the King James Version says a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before kings. So, verse 17: the first to state his case seems right until another comes and cross-examines him. How true this is. That's why you should always be very careful. Reserve your opinion until you've heard all the stories, right? In our social media era, but it has always been in the news era, the media, and now social media. But this also applies just with anything, right? People want to plead their case. I've had people say to me how they've held opinions because of what someone else says. And then when they have spoken to me, some would even have the courage to even ask what is going on. And then once they've heard once they've heard um, um, both sides of the story, they were able to come quickly to consensus. So it's foolish to just take one side. Okay, that's why it says right here, the first to state his case seems right until another comes and cross-examine him. Now that's true. You can make a case until you begin to ask questions. Simple. How do you know this? Well, you're an eyewitness anyway. Verse 18: Casting the lot ends quarrels and separates powerful opponents. Now, this casting of lots was you would have you would have a bundle of stems. It could be wood, it could be straws, it could be whatever. And there's usually one or two or whatever the desired number is shorter than the other. So the idea is that it's a fair way if you blindfold, don't stack the deck. We see, remember in Acts chapter 1, that they cast lots to choose who Judas' replacement would be. Not a godly way, but anyway, he's saying here casting of lots. There's no necessarily magical right now. Of course, in Acts chapter 1, they attributed the hand of God on the casting of lots. Here it's more general, just simply saying, okay, whoever picks these shorter or longer lots or straws or stems solves the problem. Verse 19. An offended brother is harder to reach than a fortified city, and quarrels are like the bars of a fortress. Once it happens, that is true. Once the person is offended, hard to break that. Verse 20. Fruit from the fruit of his mouth, a man's stomach is satisfied. He is filled with the product of his lips. Wise speaking. Okay. Life and death are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit. I remember several preachers usually make sermons out of this one verse here. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. Again, remember these proverbs are very general. How do you, so what does it mean when he says this? Obviously, they're true, but be very careful about how you try to make a principle out of it and then teach it as they do. Just speak the right words. If you just speak the right words, you will create life. That's not what he's saying here. That your tongue has power in it, and that's what they usually teach. That's not what he's saying. But when you speak life and death over yourself, or life and death words, yes, they can. If you talk yourself enough, either way, you're going to produce life or produce death. Life and death on the power of the tongue. I can kind of give you an example. We often say this: don't talk to the police. Don't talk to the police. Some people think that they can talk to the police. Don't talk to the police, because they're not your enemy. I mean, they're not your friends. They will use whatever you can give them to put you away. Verse 22. A man who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. I'm going to come back to this verse right here. The poor man pleads, but the rich one answers roughly. Now that's true, by the way. When it comes to money, don't think you're going to get too much sympathy from the rich. A man with many friends may be harmed, but there is a friend who stays closer than a brother. And that's true too. There's a friend who stays closer to the brother. You are blessed if you find that kind of friend. Believe it or not, most people, when you talk about friends, most people do not have many friends. They are blessed to have one or two that they could really call friends. In other words, this is a friend. For example, from my observation, and I'm only looking out, Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King, that's a friendship that what you can see. That's a friendship. That friendship has endured for decades. That here and you look at it from Oprah's standpoint, to be rich and powerful, to be blessed to have a friend like Gayle King. From what we can say, I mean, I think it is endured. That's what Proverbs is talking about right here. You are blessed to have a friend like that. That's he said to stay closer than a brother. I want to go back to verse 22. A man who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor of the Lord. This is probably one of the most misquoted verses when it comes to marriage. Look at it what he says. A man who finds a wife. So the idea is that a man should be out looking for the wife, right? So, because it said, whoever finds a wife. And I've heard people talk, men and women both, who will say, like a woman may say, I'm just waiting for the man to find me. And then the wife said, and the husband, a man may say, a woman may say, I'm just waiting for the man to find me. And then a man might say, I'm looking for that good wife. Now that's not what this verse is saying here. The figure of speech or euphemism here that says a man who finds. In other words, when you come across that, and when you discover a good wife. So when he says a man who finds a wife finds a good thing. Now, if you kind of go all the way back to Genesis, when God says it is not good for the man to be alone. Okay, it's not good for the man to be alone. So you start with that, and that's why he says he who finds a wife. Now later we're gonna see that he's referring to good wives, not just a wife, because every woman is not a good wife. So that's why I said this is a generic statement. So he's not saying that, and again, he's not saying that a woman, for example, he's not saying a woman cannot approach a man. I'm not saying she should. I'm just saying that's not what this verse is saying here. He's just simply saying that a man who finds a wife finds a good thing. In other words, and obtains favor from the Lord. If your wife comes from the Lord, you have obtained something good for your life. Now, if you just look at some of the godly marriages, they didn't go out and look. Think about Isaac, for example. Well, think about Adam. Let's go back. When it was God, when God created Adam, God was the one who said, "It is not good for man to be alone." It was God the one who brought the animals, and there was not found a helpmeet for him among the animals. And then it was God the one who put him to sleep, and then took one of his ribs and made a woman. It was God who did that. Adam didn't go out looking. God was the one who was active in that. He said, the man who finds a wife finds a good thing, obtains favor of the Lord. Isaac, remember, did not go looking for Rebecca. It was the servant went out, and then the wife was brought to Isaac. Boaz didn't go out looking for Ruth. She actually went to him. She went and asked and said, "Spread that." There was this custom they had: spread your skirt over me. Boaz had already seen that Ruth was a good woman. He had already complimented her on her virtue. See, so that's the whole point. He who finds a wife, the statement itself is not you go out and look, and then when you find. No. So it says, a man who finds a wife finds a good thing, obtain favor of the Lord. All right, guys. Don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. I'll see you in the next study.